The park was alive with its usual weekend rhythm. Families strolling, couples leaning toward each other in conversation. Children darting between the carousel and the ice cream truck like brightly colored kites on loose strings. The smell of roasted chestnuts lingered in the breeze, weaving to the laughter and the hum of casual life. Ethan Price felt the familiar weight of his canvas backpack against his shoulder and the smaller, surer weight of Lily's hand tucked in his own. 8 years old and endlessly curious, Lily moved with spring in her step, her energy tugging gently at his grounded stride. He let her skip ahead a little, then reel her back with a light squeeze of her fingers, an old rhythm between them, practiced since the funeral, since it became just the two of them. Adventure Day wasn't anything remarkable. A walk, a small treat, a chance to let Lily point out discoveries in the city that had long ago stopped surprising him. Still, it had become a sacred routine, a way of stitching normalcy through the ache that had followed them for 2 years. "Daddy, can we get the swirly one?" Lily asked, already bouncing on her toes as she spotted the ice cream truck parked near the pond. He grinned, stretching the tease just enough to make her pout. "We'll see. First, a lap around the pond." "Deal." Her groan was exaggerated, but her smile returned just as quickly. She darted ahead, tugging him along by the hand. Ethan almost kept walking. Almost. It was a kind of day that made it easy to ignore small shadows at the edges of vision. But something snagged his attention, a shape on a bench, slightly off the easy rhythm of the park. He turned his head. That's when he saw her. A young woman sat alone, her body folded inward like a sheet of paper bent too many times. Her dark hair hung tangled around her face, curtaining from the sun and from the curious eyes of strangers. Her hands gripped the hem of a pale blue skirt with such force that her knuckles gleamed white. The stillness of her posture wasn't calm. It was clenched, suffocating, the kind of stillness that screamed louder than any cry for help. "Daddy." Lily tugged his hand again, following his gaze. He hesitated. Habit wrestled with instinct. For 2 years, he had made it his mission to keep Lily's world gentle, predictable, safe. He knew too well how broken things had sharp edges that cut the hands trying to fix them. But Ethan also knew himself. He knew the stubborn pull in his chest, the certainty that if something was wrong and he had 2 working hands, he couldn't just walk away. He crouched, lowering his voice for Lily alone. "1 second, bug. Stay right by me, okay?" As they approached, the woman lifted her head just slightly. Tear tracks glistened on her cheeks. Her eyes darted like a cornered animal, measuring exits, not people. And then she spoke. Her voice was a whisper, so thin the breeze almost carried it away. "Please don't lift my skirt." The words hit the ground between them like a stone dropped into still water, out of place in the bright morning, heavier than they should have been. Around them, strangers kept walking. A few glanced, frowned, and kept moving on, unwilling to hold the discomfort for more than a second. Lily's small fingers tightened around his. Ethan felt a matching clamp at his own chest, a reflex born from nights spent listening to his daughter breathe in a too-quiet house. Fear had a language, and he recognized its accent in the woman's trembling voice. He crouched a few feet away from her bench, careful, palms open like he was approaching a frightened bird. "Hey," he said gently, shaping his voice the way a craftsman sands down sharp edges. "You look like you might need help." She shook her head quickly, hair brushing against her wet cheeks. "No, just please don't." Her hands twisted harder in the skirt, clutching fabric like it was the only barrier holding her together. "My name's Ethan," he said softly, offering the smallest bridge he could. "This is my daughter, Lily. We're not here to hurt you." The woman's gaze flickered away, then back, restless and uncertain. Something in her posture unsettled him. The way her legs trembled beneath the fabric, the awkward angle of her right foot, the way shame seemed stitched into every line of her body. "Respect her boundary," one voice whispered. "Something's wrong," another pressed. Both were true, and Ethan knew he had to find the narrow space between them. "Can you tell me," he tried again, his tone steady but not demanding, "why you don't want anyone to touch your skirt?" Her lips parted. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, in a voice shaped more by shame than defiance, she whispered, "Because if you do, you'll see." Ethan's jaw tightened. He followed her downward glance. Even from where he crouched, he saw the faint tremor in her calf, the strange angle of her foot, the darker patch on the hem of her skirt, a stain that had already begun to tell a story she hadn't wanted revealed. He shifted, angling his body so Lily stood a step behind his shoulder, shielded but close. Inside him, the instincts lined up the old mechanics training: assess, stabilize, protect. But this wasn't a machine. This was a young woman clutching fabric like a shield, begging him not to see her pain. "I hear you," Ethan said, lowering his voice another notch, softer than soft. "And I won't do anything you don't want. But if you're hurt, maybe letting me look will help me help you." For a long, breathless stretch, nothing moved except the carousel horses turning in slow, bright circles at the far end of the park. Then, her fingers loosened just slightly, like a muscle trying to remember how to release. Lily leaned closer, whispering, "Dad." "It's okay," Ethan said aloud, answering both his daughter and the trembling woman before him. "We're just going to breathe." He didn't reach yet. He gave the woman, whoever she was, the space to decide if she wanted help, not have it taken from her. In that small circle of air, the park's noise fell away. No chestnut smoke, no laughter, no carousel bells. Just three people suspended in a fragile moment where fear and trust wrestled for control. Ethan steadied his breath. He had come here for ice cream and small wonders. Instead, he found a crossroads. And even before he knew her name, he knew he couldn't walk away. The world carried on careless and bright, but in that patch of shade by the bench, everything had gone still. The silence stretched, taut as a wire. Finally, the young woman's fingers slackened just enough that Ethan could see she was trembling from the effort of holding herself so tightly together. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, her lips forming a small, brittle line as though words would fracture her completely. Ethan moved slowly, deliberately. His mechanic's hands, more use of wrenches and bolts, open like careful instruments. He let her see the motion, gave her the choice to flinch, to refuse. "Only if you let me," he said softly. Her chin dipped in the faintest nod. Ethan swallowed hard, reached forward, and with the gentlest touch he could manage, lifted the fabric of her skirt just a few inches. The breath caught in his throat. Her leg, pale against the shadowed fold of cloth, was marred by deep bruises, angry purples and sickly yellows spreading like ink stains. Near her shin, a gash cut jagged across the skin, the edges raw, the blood sluggish but persistent. Her ankle was swollen, the skin stretched tight, discoloration climbing upward like creeping vines. It wasn't just an accident. These weren't the kind of marks a stumble on a sidewalk would leave. They spoke of something harsher, deliberate, cruel. "Jesus," Ethan muttered under his breath, the words slipping out before he could stop it. The woman flinched at the sound, clutching the bench as if bracing for judgment. But Ethan's gaze softened. He let the skirt fall back down, covering her once more. "You're hurt," he said gently, voice steady, almost clinical, because he knew she needed calm, not pity. "Badly." Her reply was a whisper, nearly lost in the breeze. "I know." "Did someone do this to you?" he asked, careful not to let his anger edge through. She didn't answer, only turned her face away, hair swinging like a curtain. Ethan exhaled slowly. He wanted to demand, to know, to chase down whatever monster had left her like this. But Lily's small hand pressed into his arm, grounding him. His daughter didn't need rage from him. Neither did the stranger. He looked back at the woman. "We need to get you somewhere safe. A hospital, maybe." "No." Her voice cracked, sharp with panic. She twisted, trying to push herself off the bench, only to wince and sink back, pain tightening her face. "Not a hospital. Please. They'll find me." Ethan's frown deepened. He didn't press yet. Whatever her story was, it was wrapped in fear thicker than the bruises. "Okay," he said, nodding slowly, as though negotiating with the air itself. "No hospital. But you can't stay here." Her eyes flicked to Lily, then back to him. "Why are you helping me?" "Because I can't not," he almost said. Instead, "Because you're hurt, and because no one should sit alone like this." For a long moment, mistrust wore with exhaustion in her face. At last, she sagged, the fight draining out of her like air from a punctured tire. Ethan slid his backpack off, rummaged with a clean rag he always carried for greasy hands at the garage. He wrapped it gently around her shin, firm enough to slow the bleeding, not enough to hurt. "I'm going to help you up," he said. "We'll take it slow." It wasn't easy. She hissed in pain as he braced her arm over his shoulder, her slight frame trembling against him. Lily hovered close, biting her lip, her wide eyes darting from the woman's face to her father's. Step by step, Ethan guided the stranger toward his old pickup parked at the curb. Each movement was careful, measured, a choreography of patience. By the time he eased her into the passenger seat, her skin was slick with sweat, her breath shallow but steady. Lily climbed into the back, silent now, sensing the gravity of this detour in their day. Ethan started the engine, the familiar rumble grounding him. For a moment, he gripped the wheel, staring out at the park still bustling in the distance. Children laughed, dogs barked, life went on as though nothing had shifted. But everything had. He glanced at her, at the way she curled into herself against the door, clutching his rag as if it were a lifeline. "My place is close. You can rest there at least for the night." Her voice was faint. "I don't know if I should trust you." He nodded once, eyes on the road. "That's fair. You don't know me, but you can trust that I won't hurt you." The ride was short, quiet except for the low hum of the engine. Lily leaned forward once, whispering, "She's really hurt, Daddy." "I know, Bug," he murmured back. At the small apartment, Ethan helped her again, careful with every step up the narrow stairs. His home wasn't much. 2 bedrooms, patched up furniture, a life rebuilt in pieces, but it was warm, clean, safe. He settled her onto the worn couch, propping her leg with pillows. Lily fetched a blanket without being asked, draping it gently over the stranger's lap. "What's your name?" Ethan asked finally, crouching beside the couch. She hesitated, then whispered, "Maya." "Okay, Maya," he said, committing it to memory. "You're safe here." Her eyes searched his face, still wary but threaded now with something else. Something like the faint outline of hope. Ethan leaned back, exhaling. He didn't know what storm Maya had walked through to end up bleeding on a park bench. He only knew that, for tonight, she wouldn't face it alone. And in the quiet of that small living room, with Lily curled beside her father and Maya clutching the edge of the blanket like it was anchor and shield, 3 lives intersected, ordinary until the moment they weren't. Adventure Day had begun with ice cream and laughter. It ended with something else entirely, a fragile thread of connection, woven from pain, compassion, and the stubborn refusal of one man to walk away.